joining today. I really look forward to just a really constructive, encouraging, and hopefully insightful conversation with you. You've been in the real estate industry for a little bit now, and you're coming from a long history of baseball and coaching. And so, yeah, first, welcome to the podcast here. Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me,
And
Jacob.
yeah, let's get into it. So I'd love to kind of see and learn from maybe I'll just kind of open the floor with, dude. So you're a coach, probably in all facets of your mind, the way you see business, the way that you see people, probably very developmental, so to speak. And so just from the get-go, when you jumped into the real estate space, did you pull a lot of that maybe drive, that fire, any of your coaching or maybe athletic background directly into the real estate space?
Yeah, so there's a lot I can say about this, Jacob, and I think one of the most important parts of this topic is when I'm coaching, and I realized this more the longer I got into it, and the more kids I came across, and you find these kids are coming from all different kinds of backgrounds, all different situations. They're dealing with things that, unless you try to dig beneath the surface, you would never have any idea. Just the tough situations that these kids are dealing with. And what I learned was, as I coach and I try to mentor these kids on the field and off the field and try to make them better all around, it was more of me. It was more of myself that was getting worked on. And the kids and everything that happened worked as kind of like a mirror reflecting on the things that I needed to get better on, the things that I could do better for them and help them as a coach, but more importantly, the things that I can do better off the field with myself and my personal life, my relationships with my family, my wife. So that was the biggest thing. I was kind of blown away to realize just how much it was like, well, here I am telling, these kids, do X, Y, Z. And if I take a minute to look at my life and ask myself, am I actually doing the things that I'm,
Hmm.
asking my players to do? So it was really cool. It was really cool because it challenged me to be better without even realizing. A lot of kids asking questions or pushing back even, or just being, welcoming everything I had to say and do with open arms. It didn't really matter. It was all kind of the same thing where it just, hey, Jonathan, what are you doing about, what you're preaching and what you're telling these kids to do? So that was the biggest thing. And it helped me grow so much in my relationship with Christ. It helped me, again, like I said, with my family. And as me and my wife were getting ready to go into a new season right now, welcoming our new baby next year.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. It's going to be like, I feel like I had a whole test run of how to handle so many things that I could have never possibly imagined if I wasn't a coach. So I'm super thankful for all of that. So that's one of the main things which I've really reflected on the last
Hmm.
basically couple of years, more so than
Hmm.
at the beginning of my coaching career. As it
Hmm.
relates to more of how I go about the business, I think so many times I come across people who want to buy a house, who are interested in real estate, who are looking to take that next step in their personal life and really don't know where to get started. And they have a lot of questions and they don't really know who to talk to. And they're just kind of figuring out as they go. And it's been really cool because as a new real estate agent, I'm not too far beyond that. I'm learning a lot myself too, and I have a lot of questions, and things have been kind of like a learning process, learning on the fly, I would say, and it's been really cool because that's how I learn best, and I think most people can relate to that. But just being thrown different situations, different questions, to put in different scenarios where one, I'm already uncomfortable because I don't know really what I'm doing. And then two, like these people look at you as like a source and somebody who they're going to trust. And so it's really forced me early on to be like, hey, I've got to learn and know my stuff and be better for my clients. So I think that's the best way for me to learn. I read a lot. I went to a lot of classes and a lot of trainings, and those were all great. Don't get me wrong, and I think it's helpful. But it wasn't until for me, you're put in that situation, and it's like a light bulb goes off, and you're like, now I get it. And I'll tell you what, in just a few months that I've been doing this, already I feel so much more comfortable with, responding to different types of questions and dealing with clients, and anticipating some of the problems that might come up. So there's a lot more I could say about my background,
Yeah.
but those were like
No,
the
no,
two main things that came up. Yeah.
that's amazing. And I love the transition you made when it comes to the journey of an athlete, right? So you find whether the kid's 6 years old and, doesn't know right field from left field, and you get to showcase, your expertise, right, as a coach to be able to, guide this little person through. It's sometimes the same way with, I love that transition, the same way with a new buyer, right? They're on their heels. Maybe they're being forced to move because of a job transition or something, and they're coming in for you primarily the Orange County, the LA area, and they're like, where do I start? What do I do? So from what I know about coaching too, is there has to be a level of trust developed. And obviously as an athletic coach, you have like days and days, months and years with these athletes to develop that trust to where when you say jump, they do respond with how high. But in the real estate space, at least I found too, it takes a little bit of time and maybe quite a bit of intentionality to get a buyer um, ready and trusting you and saying, okay, I'll do it. I'll give you this or whatever, whatever it might be. So are there any like ways that you build trust, or like maybe you pulled some techniques or things with athletes and coaching into like building trust with new clients?
Great question. This is another big thing that I felt I really got better at the longer I coached. And I think
Hmm.
people think, coaching is, if you know a little bit about the sport, maybe you know the X's and O's, and you know when to, pull a certain pitcher or put on a hit and run, that you might be okay. And it's so much more than that. That's, in my opinion, kind of secondary, and doesn't matter nearly as much as the investment that you make in the person. And so like you said, I'm really fortunate as a coach to get to be around somebody day in and day out, every single day, hours at a time. I see them at their best. I see them at their worst. I see them when they're doing really well. I see them when they're doing really poorly. And you get to know somebody on a really deep level and kind of minister to them in their own way. And how you do that kind of depends on the person and the relationship that you build with them. But I'm fortunate to have all of that experience and kind of see and experiment over the years with what works best with certain people. And I think if you can be genuine yourself, and not just, you're in it for, let's say if you're coaching, you're not in it to find out what next best job you can get, whether it's moving up to a 4-year school, becoming a head coach or whatever it is. Or it's not even more about, the win-loss record, like look how many wins I have. If you can be genuinely interested in the person, genuinely interested in doing the best that you can as a coach, the players pick up on that. They pick up on things, on situations, on statements that are made that aren't genuine, and they lose the respect really quick. And so that was the first thing. And then the second thing is you really have to dive into the person, and show that you care about them. And that's, I think, the best thing that I did as a coach. And in my clients, I think that's the only way I know how to do it. That's the only way I know like how it works. And maybe it's not going to be as quick of a, hey, 15-minute phone call, or hey, let's sit down for coffee. But over time, I hope to show that I'm in it to really help my clients achieve whatever it is they're trying to achieve, whatever goals they're trying to achieve with whatever situation that comes up. And I think that starts with just exposure. And at least for me, I cannot stand the sales person, the stereotypical salesperson. And that's the last person I ever wanted to become. I never thought I'd be doing a job like this for that reason alone. So that's really where I try to go to the opposite end and just be like, hey, what's going on? How can I help? I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm just like, hey, let's solve a problem. You're trying to get somewhere, much like coaching. You have certain goals in your mind. Like I found that already in just a few months, these conversations that I've had with clients, even if they don't know very much about real estate, just there's usually one thing, usually a lot more, but usually there's at least one thing where you can take from it and learn. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm speaking, just life in general and the connections you can make and the relationships you can build. And before you know it, like you've developed some type of friendship and some type of relationship and some type of at least baseline level of trust. Maybe not the whole way, but you've laid the groundwork for it. And from everything I've been told and what I've experienced, it's going to take a long time to get that pipeline and that client base going. But I hope with every person I come in contact with, that they see that I'm genuinely interested in them and helping them achieve their goals. And I trust, just like what I would tell my players, I trust that the results will follow, and it'll take care of itself.
Come on. It's almost like there's a good friend of mine that often says he's a loan officer, a lender, and he says he's a real estate finance problem solver, right? So it's positioning
Mm,
yourself as someone who takes a situation and, missing puzzle piece or whatever and finds a way to make the whole picture. For you, it almost sounds like you're a real estate like coach, right? Or a real estate problem solver because you're a coach. Do you kind of take that frame and communicate it too when you're maybe talking to clients, or do you not usually lead with your coaching side? Or I don't know, just curious. What do you
yeah.
do? Yeah,
It all changes and all depends. If there's a
right,
connection I can make on the athletic side of things, I do it right away. So somebody's wearing a sports shirt, I gotta mention it. Just I'm interested in that stuff. Like that's where I come
right.
from. I really like it, and usually people who are within that community are pretty similar. And so
Mm,
if they're showing anything that they're wearing, or they make a comment about bringing their kid from soccer practice or whatever, that's something that I definitely lean into. But
mm,
besides that, to answer your question, you know, not everyone's an athlete. They all come from different places. And so I try to find that one thing that we can connect on. And that might be our faith, that might be athletics, that might be maybe they like a certain hobby. Like I'm really into cycling. I just met somebody the other day who's a huge cyclist, and we just talked about that for a while. So yeah, I try to find some way to connect, not related to real estate. See that, hey, you can actually talk to me. I'm a pretty cool guy. I'm not just trying to sell you a home or make you sell your home. And then yeah, just kind of figure out, what's going on in their life. And maybe like a lot of these for me, and it's just you getting to know somebody, and they're
mm.
not in a position right now where they're going to sell. You're not in a position to buy, for whatever reason. But the goal with myself is like if I can make enough touches with enough people and stay in contact and continue to grow those relationships, when that time does come, and maybe it's not for them, but for a family friend, hey, I've met this guy, seems pretty cool. Don't know what he's like, but in talking to him, he's seems like a good guy. Give him a call, and
Mm,
that's all I need.
mm,
I just need a phone call. Just like
mm.
we tell our players all the time. And the most recent place I was at a junior college, all you need is one coach. You just need one coach to give you a shot, and that might be a phone call. That might be one game that he shows up. That might be one at bat that he sees, and that's all I'm asking for. Just one opportunity to kind of make that connection and see where it goes.
That's super cool. Dude, that's awesome. And I really hope people can resonate with the fact that you are in it for the long haul too. You're not in it just to make a transaction happen and then fly away, at the end of the day here, right? Not see me
That
again.
That's the worst.
That's
That's the worst. That's the worst. You can
Yeah,
you
and
can
it's
see
that
that.
sleazy salesperson that you're mentioning. It's just you want to take a shower afterwards, right? There was a thing the other day I got hit up by like a Yelp guy, and my gosh, like I tried to be as cordial as I possibly could, but I just couldn't nicely hang up that phone. I had to end up just hanging up because he wouldn't let me go, and I'm like, I'm sorry, buddy. So I guess in the end, it's about like being a real human and offering those real human connections with the goal of meeting a real human need, which in these cases is finding someone. One of the most staple, I think, sacred things. It's like your house, it's a roof over your head. It's a beautiful thing, and it's a cool thing that we get to offer. So, Jonathan,
Mhm.
let's end with this. You're an athlete. I think a lot of people, whether if they're an athlete or not, in this industry, they go up and they go down, oftentimes based on motivation and what I feel like doing, as opposed to the discipline of just getting in and showing up and doing the hard work. Just give us a couple nuggets on, from an athletic perspective, from a coaching perspective, how can you take that competitive edge from maybe the mindset of an athlete into the real estate space in order to not have those swings of going up and going down, but staying consistent and staying disciplined? What can somebody do?
if any of my players end up watching this, they're gonna laugh when I say this, but just do it. And I think for me, I think motivation's overrated. I'm not somebody who's very rah. Never was a coach that yelled a lot or got super animated, just because I didn't really see the purpose in it. And at the same time, I didn't, get really motivated from a stare down from the other side, or from a comment that was made, or somebody showing you up on the field. It was more like, I got a job to do, like, turn the page, let's go. And so I think when you have a purpose, I think is more important. And my purpose first is related to my faith in Jesus Christ, and the duties that I have to be more like him and pursue him, and then take care of my family. So after those two things, this, it's really important to me. But at the same time, like, I'm not gonna live and die on every single result that comes with my real estate business. I know what I'm in it to do, and to provide for my family, to provide a service to my clients, to help improve their lives in any way I can. And so there's a process, and I'm going to trust the process. And, there's going to be days, and I've already experienced days where it's like, gosh, that wasn't very productive, or at least that's what I think. Like, nothing really happened. I didn't get really many connections, and things kind of were bad, and you just kind of like roll with it. And I think, if you're someone that needs something to get motivated on, like, hey, great, use that. For me, doesn't really work. I'm more like, hey, this is my job. This is what I got to do in order to be successful. There's a process to it, and it's kind of just doing it. So yeah, my players will like
Just
that,
do
but
it.
just do it.
Just do it. Yeah,
Yeah.
for me, honestly, there's moments where like I just have to lean into you know what? It's a Tuesday, and this is what I do on a Tuesday. And if I need a walk-up song, I'll sometimes play a song as I'm walking into the office to let my mind and body know it's game time, right? But apart from that, you're just like, no, I got to show up and do the work. So, okay, Jonathan, any
Yeah.
last words? Any final thoughts for maybe a new agent, a seasoned agent that's just, what would a coach tell me in this situation? Any last thoughts?
Yeah, well, really quick on that motivation part, try this next time you work out. Try not listening to music. And I've always done this, but people make comments or whatever, but I think it's really interesting what it does to you when you work out without music. So I don't know if anyone listening to this wants to give it a shot, because it's kind of weird. Everyone has their headphones in, but try that next time you're working out and see what that does to everything else. Last thoughts on being a new agent, like, gosh, you've got to pay your dues, and that's what I'm seeing. I've talked with a lot of more experienced realtors. I just finished a few deals with realtors who are in it for 20 and 30 years. And yes, it's going to take a while to get there, but I think if it's in God's plan, I know that well, whatever it is that God has for me, it's going to be fine. And if it's not in this long term, whatever it is that He takes me to is going to be fine. But if it is in real estate, like, I realize I'm not going to go out of the gate making millions of dollars my first 2 years, and that's okay. Again, like I said before, it's a process, and you have things that you need to do and stick with and be consistent about and be genuine about. And at the end of the day, it's like, if you can control what you can control, and leave the rest in God's hands, you're going to be okay. So that's what I would say. Don't get caught up with being so anxious and worried about, like, where your next paycheck's coming from, how you're going to close this next deal. Like, that's not a very healthy way to live, and it's not very fun, to be honest. And I've spent, and I still do spend moments in there, and I try to get out as quickly as I can.
So where can people find you, Jonathan, if they want to connect?
Yeah, so I'm trying to expand my profile out there. If you Google me, Jonathan Munoz, Homesmart Evergreen is who I'm with. You'll find my Google page, my website's up there. On Instagram is probably the best way, and that's at Jonathan Munoz Realtor. So my first and last name, Jonathan Munoz Realtor. I'm on there, and I try to stay pretty active on there too. But those are the spots, and yeah, I really appreciate you having me on here, Jacob.
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you.